Welcome to our production today of For Your Health by the St. Croix River Valley Holistic Practitioners. We're here today with Gayle Parizino. Welcome, Gayle.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Good. Gayle is a member of the St. Croix River Valley Holistic Practitioners, and Gayle has a background in nursing. In fact, she has her master's degree in nursing, and she's done a number of things over the years with that degree. She's worked in schools and clinics and at the hospital in many different capacities, and about 12 years ago became aware of a few other kinds of health promotion techniques, holistic healing, energy work, and has pursued that for herself, and now is not doing official nursing anymore, but much more focused on energy work in different places that takes her. We're going to hear a little bit more from Gayle today about exactly how she became involved and what she's doing with all of that, so that you can understand more about what Gayle does in her private practice. So once again, welcome, Gayle.
Thank you.
We're so glad you can be here today to tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you do those things, all right?
Yes.
So to begin with, would you tell us a little bit about how you became involved? Well, give us a little more background about how you got to where you are today. Tell us a little bit about what you've done with your nursing, or as if that makes sense to tell us about in terms of what you're doing today.
Well, how I actually got into some more of the holistic healing kinds of practices. I worked in a variety of settings, and always was intrigued by the philosophy of looking at the whole person. And as I was getting nearer to retiring from my nursing position, I thought, what would I like to do that really makes me feel good, and what, how I could use that holistic philosophy in my practice and go on into even going into something different in my career. So actually I thought, well, what do I like to do? As part of my nursing career, massage was part of that.
Oh, okay.
And so I thought, oh, I always loved to massage people. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to check on and see if there's any availability to be able to take some courses in massage therapy.
Okay.
So I actually went to a vitamin shop, and someone there told me, hey, there's a school that I was talking about what I wanted to do, and she said, well, there's a school opening down in Afton. And she said, you should check on it. And so I did check on it. I called that day, actually, and whoever answered the phone was someone that became my mentor in the years to come.
Oh, for crying out loud.
And she said, well, she said, you can come today and have a tour, and you can start your classes tonight. And I thought, oh my goodness. I thought, this is divine intervention here, that I would meet this wonderful person in my life. And
out of the vitamin shop.
Out of the vitamin shop. And so anyway, I did go and I started the process. And I actually did it while I was working full-time as a nurse, and completed it in 3 years. So I took a variety of different things with that. And as I took that, I had one of my instructors that was really kind of into the energy part of it. Okay. And I was totally fascinated by that. I thought, oh my gosh, this is just, I've always felt that I had that ability to sense energy and to feel people's pain, and I had a sense of that, but I didn't really know what to do with it. I just knew I had that ability. And so I started pursuing that, and after I got finished with my massage therapy part of it, then I actually pursued and went into doing Reiki and became a master in Reiki. Because that was a form of energy therapy that I thought would be wonderful, and it was wonderful. And I used that for several years until I had some issues in my own life where I actually took care of my husband before he died, and did Reiki on him, and he loved it. And he just felt it was very helpful, as well as massage therapy. Right. And then I didn't know where my life was headed. And so I actually talked to my mentor again, and she and I had coffee, and she sat down with me, and she said, you know, Gayle, with your nursing background, and she said, I know that you have such a tremendous interest in the energy therapy. Why don't you think about doing a healing touch? She said, there's classes at our school right now, and so I started on that process. And it actually was very healing for me, because as I went through and was helping others, I actually was in a process of healing myself. So I cried through a lot of those
I bet you did. And I'm
level
sorry that you
classes.
lost your husband. I'm sorry about that. That's a hard thing.
That's been a very
Yeah.
hard thing.
You know, and it's kind of interesting to me, but doesn't healing touch kind of come from the nursing background?
Yes.
Have I not heard that? I
Oh,
was
yeah,
thinking
absolutely.
I had. Okay.
Janet Menken was a nurse, and she felt that many of these techniques came actually from therapeutic touch. And many of the techniques used in energy therapy are actually have come down from thousands of years ago.
Okay.
They have been around for a long time, and then people have actually had different approaches to that. Reiki is one of them. Healing touch is more nursing based, and because Janet was a nurse and felt these techniques, as I said before, came from God.
Yeah.
And she taught these, and she just was a wonderful mentor for healing touch. And healing touch is, I'm not sure of exactly how long it's been around, for about 20 years, though, I think.
Okay.
And
with that official name,
yes,
you mean?
and of course, people at first just didn't understand it, and so it got kind of a frightening thing for people. How could you actually use energy to help in the healing process? And so it took a long time with education and having it being used more and more in different settings, particularly in the hospital setting. And until people really realize that it isn't anything scary and it's not anything that's not Christian, it's very spiritual. It's probably why I've gone to that level in my practice, because it is very spiritual and it really embodies the mind, body, and spirit. And it's a wonderful spiritual connection. It helps so much with the healing process.
Good.
And
Good.
helps facilitate that.
Good. Well, you kind of led us to the hospital piece, and so I'd like you to tell everybody a little bit about how you became involved at Stillwater's Lakeview Hospital, because I consider you the pioneer there.
Oh.
You got involved with them way, way, way back, and numbers of us who are involved at the hospital are very grateful for that. So give us a little background about that.
Well, I didn't do it alone, but I had worked at Lakeview as a RN over the years, and I love the hospital, and I love the community because I've worked in the community all these years, and I just thought, you know, they're doing this at all the other hospitals around the Twin Cities. I would really love to have this coming into Lakeview Hospital. So I called the integrative committee and said I'd really be interested in presenting to you an idea I had about presenting energy therapy into the hospital setting at Lakeview. So I did do that, and I actually did a presentation there too. And
good for you.
And then you know, the more I talked about it, and they talked about in the committee about getting a group together. And so it was just not me. There was several other wonderful people that were very enthusiastic. And so together we came up with some plans. And it took a while. It was probably about 1.5 years after that committee was formed.
How long ago was that?
Oh, gosh, I'm thinking about 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so we finally got it rolling. And there's been some, you know, valleys and some highs. And there was a time when I thought, oh, my gosh, are we going to go forward with this?
Sure.
And we did.
Marvelous.
And after about 1 year, 1.5 years, you know, the more education we did and the more that we talked to the nurses, and the nurses could see the unbelievable results with their patients and that it was helping them in their healing, then it was taking off, and it was wonderful. And it is very, very wonderful now. And I work all over the hospital when I volunteer, but I particularly like working in oncology because I know how helpful it is down there in helping with relaxing the patient and detoxifying and rebalancing the patient, particularly when they're getting chemotherapy.
Okay. Well, I know that we have a little clip of you working in the surgery or the oncology area. I do some work in the pre-surgery area, so I got my tongue tied there. But I know that we did a little clip of you, I think, in the oncology area. And it seems to me you were doing some clearing with them or something. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, and so explain that to us a little bit. What is it you're intending to do there?
Okay, with the magnetic clearing, actually you're using your hands, and in any kind of energy work, you're usually in your hands to rebalance and to actually clear and to actually relieve some of the congestion. Because when there is any energy that is held in an area, that can cause, many times pain can be some of that.
Okay.
Or there can be disease that'll form. This is what Eastern medicine believes, that if energy stays in one area for any length of time, then eventually there will be disease in that area. So you want the energy to flow freely in and out of the body through the energy field. And so what I'm doing in this clip is actually doing clearing and rebalancing the body by taking my hands over the body and doing that at least 30 times for it to be effective. And what I'm really feeling for is that I feel the lightness in the energy field as I go over the body. And as I feel that lightness, I know that I'm rebalancing the body and getting the energy centers open. So that is what I was doing in that clip. And it's particularly really helpful to people that are receiving chemotherapy because it does a detoxifying, sort of like a massage does, because your hands become, it's called magnetic clearing because your hands become like magnets. So it actually clears through everything. And then they're actually, with your intention, gets rid of all the toxins and also rebalances the body and relaxes the body. I love it because it's so helpful in relaxing the body, particularly if there's any anxiety or you're just very uptight, which can happen when you're here receiving chemotherapy.
Yeah, or when you get the diagnosis.
And you get the diagnosis.
Cancer, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's enough to throw you through the ceiling, you know.
Yeah, and so it's really relaxing. And when the body is in that really relaxed state, the body has all its energy to heal then. And so it's a wonderful space to be in, and all those good endorphins are there for you, because actually the energy therapy also increases your immune system and boosts that, and that's what you need at the point when you're receiving chemotherapy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, once they found cancer already, we got to get the rest of that junk out of there.
You're not a kid.
Absolutely.
We do. Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
good. All right. Well, let's see. Maybe the next piece we can move to is another bit of clip. It was kind of fun for me because you worked on me as we did these clips coming up here. And it seemed to me the first piece that we talked about doing was your work with the pendulum. Can you explain a little bit about what it is you do in terms of Touch for Health? How do you use the pendulum, and what are you looking for, or what are you noticing?
Well, when you work with a patient the first time, and I do that even down in oncology, whenever I'm working on someone, I usually do an assessment of the energy field to see where the energy centers, if they're open or they're not open. And there are 7 energy centers that I work with. It's the root chakra is number 1. Number 2 is the sacral area. That's number 2. The solar plexus, number 3. The heart chakra, number 4. Your throat, number 6. And your brow. And then your crown chakra. And then your interpersonal space. Okay. And so what I'm doing too is checking to see with the vibrations from that, because with the energy centers there is a vibratory kind of thing. So when you take that pendulum and put it over each area, you can pick up whether that energy center is open, because you want them all to be open, because that's a really healthy state. So if I did that on you, in most cases, and that was true I think when I did it on you actually,
I think so.
Where everything was open.
Okay.
So, all the energy was flowing really nicely.
Okay.
And so if it isn't open, when I work with that particular person, I want to work to help that open up. And then afterwards, after I've worked on them in a session, I don't use a pendulum in the hospital because sometimes it's kind of scary and they kind of see it as kind of a voodoo-y thing, which it is not. It's just another assessment tool.
Yeah.
Then I will work on that particular, chakra and make sure that it's open, so that at the end of my session with that person, I will do it again to evaluate whether I've, together, the patient or the client and I have opened up those centers so the energy is flowing again.
Okay, and so the whole purpose of that is to just really identify where things are flowing and where things are not flowing so well. Right. And that's kind of the work of the pendulum.
Right.
Oh, good.
Right.
Okay, good. All right, thanks. I think you talked a little bit about magnetic clearing when we showed the clip in the oncology unit at the hospital. But tell me a little bit more about what are you feeling? What are you noticing? Is it intuition that you're using when you're magnetic clearing? And my understanding of that is it's your hands kind of running over the top of the person's body, a couple inches off. But what are you looking for? What are you feeling? How do you know when you're done? How many times? You said 30.
Well,
And I'm just
usually
wondering.
at least that.
Okay.
But you're feeling the lightness. When you have someone that there's a lot of congestion, perhaps, even today when I was working on someone, you feel a lot of congestion in the liver area. And so you just keep working those areas by doing the sweeps until you can feel that that is lighter, and then you know you have moved some perhaps blockages
Oh, okay.
and have actually, you can feel that lightness in your hands.
Oh, okay. So it might
Yeah.
start out and you might feel some, like it's pulling through something or
Absolutely.
sludgy even
Yes,
or
yes,
something on that
yes.
order. I don't know if that's the right word.
No,
but-
that's really
Oh,
good.
okay.
Yeah, you'll feel that heaviness as you go through, and then as you actually work that through, then you'll feel the lightness.
Oh, okay.
And that's how you know that you have got to a point where there's energy flowing
Okay.
into those areas. The other thing that I wanted to mention too is there's another thing called magnetic passes.
Okay.
And that's a little bit different. That's actually maybe you would tell me that you had a pain in your shoulder, and I would just be doing some gentle sweeping off of that area until that became light. Because what happens actually when there is pain, that there is actually energy that shoots out from that area into the energy field.
Okay.
And so what you want to do is to sweep that area until you feel the lightness, and that will really help. And you can do that whenever you hurt your finger or whatever, and you just do the gentle swiping of the area until you can feel actually the pain will leave.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's almost something people could do on their own.
Oh,
is what you're
absolutely.
saying.
Yeah. And I
that's
think that's really important to teach people to do things for themselves that they can do, because they really, truly, as much as we facilitate, they are the healers. And if we can just help them along that path and also do some teaching along the way to help them to do some of these things at home to help themselves too, I think that's important.
Yeah. I do this work myself, so I sometimes wonder, how did we drop the ball? How did we stop passing down from generation to generation these simple little things that we can use at home to help ourselves be healthy, be well, and feel good? Isn't that amazing how we just have sort of lost those pieces? It's kind of amazing to me.
Well, I think some of that has happened because we've gone so technical.
I suppose.
And I think we've lost the simplicity of so many things. I think the wonderful thing about some of these holistic approaches are that there are no side effects.
True.
And it just makes you feel good because it really works with the whole person. Sometimes, as an example, I worked with a person who was really in the process of dying from cancer.
Oh, okay.
And but she would come in for some healing touch, and it really made her feel good. But after I did a session with her, I had spent quite a bit of time just talking about how she felt about things in her life and how the impact this had on her and her family and her husband. And she said afterwards, she sat down with me and she said, "You know what, Gayle, I'm not really sure if it was your session with Healing Touch or the fact that we could talk." So sometimes it's all of it together that make a difference, and just really caring and loving that person that it comes across. And that's the spiritual part of it.
Sure it is.
That has to come from your heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Almost that story that you just told almost sounds like somebody reading out of the Bible a little bit, doesn't it?
Right.
What Christ did with people and how he did that. And
Right.
he said others would come behind him. Not that we are necessarily that, however.
Well,
we are doing the work.
That's
We're
right.
doing that work. And that's the part that I love.
Yeah.
And I know you do too, because I know you well enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do love that. And I think that somehow that is taking time, but I do think that Western medicine, being a nurse, I'm a Western medicine girl.
Yeah, you are.
Love techniques, love all that. But also I think that they are now more and more realizing that we can be an adjunct to them, that we can help in the healing process with other things, other complementary types of therapies, and that they are wonderful. And sometimes, the nurses, when I'm up in the hospital and I'm doing Healing Touch, they love it when we come because it's the thing they would love to do more of. Some of them have been taught all these techniques, but they don't have time to do them. So they're so thrilled when we come up and say, because we can just help them relax, the patient relax, so they don't have to have as much pain medication. Or if there's anxiety, or if there's a lot of pain, that they've given them so much pain medication they can't give them any more.
Sure.
But you can come in and relax them and help with that process. So it's coming.
Yes. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. I want to make sure that we get all the video clips in here.
Right.
So I want to shift gears for you a little bit to move on
Mhm.
to mind clearing. I think we have a video about that.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how that works.
Well, I love mind clearing. That's
Okay.
one of my favorite things, because it really, truly relaxes you, because it works with the brain and relaxes the brain. So when I do massage too, that's always what I end up with, because if I haven't relaxed them before, this will do it.
Okay.
And what it actually does is rebalance the brain and works with calming the brain. So they call it mind clearing, because actually afterwards people will say to me, oh, I feel so clear. My thinking is so cleared now. And so it just rebalances all the parts of the brain. Wonderful for sinus issues, wonderful for headaches of any kind, wonderful for just generally relaxing the patient. It's just one of my favorite things to do, because it really does help the patient relax.
Well, and as everybody could see, that was me you were working on there, and I did feel that. It was a wonderfully relaxing time. I didn't know what you were doing to me, but I could certainly feel that my sinuses were opening, and I was just sinking kind of deeper and deeper into your massage table there. It just felt marvelous. So I can attest to that one very much, yeah. Let's see, we had the chakra connection or chakra connection.
Yes, the chakra connection.
Okay, and is there something you want to tell us about that?
Yes, that's another one that I use very frequently. I particularly use it down in oncology and with the patients in the hospital, because after you've had surgery or having chemotherapy, there's a lot of the energy centers that are not open. So what this does is actually opens up all the energy centers and gets all of them flowing. So you actually wait at a certain point on these areas that you can see me holding until I can feel in my hands that there's the motion of that these energy centers have opened.
Okay.
And then once I feel that, I move on to the next area. So I start at the feet, work up all the way up to the top of the body until I have all of the energy centers